from the streets of Manhattan.
I don't understand what we did wrong.
I think it'd be a good idea to change routine if they boom.
To the sands of the Sahara.
You understand English?
Yes.
From the darkest corners of the Kasbah.
These men may control the fate of the Middle East.
It's amazing, huh?
To the cabarets of Casablanca. Dustin Hoffman, Warren Beatty, Ishtar.
This is some of our best work.
Rated PG-13. Advanced previews Saturday night in select cities.
Hello, welcome back to Almost Cult Classics, the podcast. My name is Joe Ramoni, and with me is my friend and co-host, Ryan Lancello.
Howdy, folks.
And today we're talking about a film from 1987 called Ishtar, directed and written by Elaine May. And if you are someone who's researched the worst movies ever made, this movie has topped the list on many lists. That's kind of why it was on our radar, why we wanted to do it. I also wanted to talk about Elaine May, who I feel is an unsung comedy director. She directs only 4 movies, and after the failure of Ishtar, she kind of goes into retirement. But we had talked about doing this movie, I think, years ago.
Oh, yeah, I mean, when we started, I kind of got a list of 15 to 20 movies together just to kind of get a little steam so we know what we're talking about. And this was definitely on there. Because just for years, it was notorious. It's like, I mean, it ruined careers, it ruined a studio, it was a punchline forever as like the worst movie of all time, one of those. And,
What did you think? Did you think it lived up to its reputation?
What do you think I thought of it?
I think you liked this movie.
I think I did like this movie.
I had a feeling.
Yeah.
I didn't love it. It's not nearly as bad as it's made out to be.
I enjoyed it. I wasn't falling all over. I wasn't pissing my pants with joy or anything, but like it was good. I liked it.
I believe on IMDb it has like a 4, that's like insanely low. Like it's not unwatchable. It drags in parts. It's very uneven.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk a lot about the production of this movie and kind of
the press
that really affected how this movie was viewed. It kind of was just, before it even came out, everyone knew there was trouble behind the scenes, and the studio head had kind of a vendetta against some of the creatives in this movie.
Yeah, they switched hands at one point. Like the guy that brought it in, he left. The new guy came in because he didn't like Beatty or Hoffman.
Right.
Necessarily.
And he was kind of against these big budget epics and was trying to save money.
And that's the thing. I mean, like, look, they made a lot of mistakes.
By the way, I'm drinking Coca-Cola, who was essentially the production because they owned Columbia Pictures at this point.
Well, not only that, they had money they couldn't get out of Morocco.
Right.
So they had to spend the money in Morocco. So they said, fine, go shoot in Morocco.
It's one of those movies where the stuff behind the scenes is way more interesting than
100%
what takes
the
place
making
in the movie.
of Ishtar would make a
great movie because you had all these geopolitical conflicts happening in the Middle East. You had Coca-Cola buying Columbia Pictures and switching studio heads. You have which seems like just a nightmarish production, camels dying and sand having to be moved around.
Yep.
And Elaine May, to her credit, is very big on shooting on location. We're going to talk in depth about the other movies that she did leading up to Ishtar, which would be A New Leaf, The Heartbreak Kid, Mikey and Nicky, and then we come to Ishtar. But all those movies are really great about location filmmaking. She's really great at capturing locations and stuff like that. And she surrounds herself with creatives, but she herself is a very controversial filmmaker, and she's someone that I've always kind of respected for that.
Yeah, and very under the radar, too. I think, you were saying to me before we started how it's just, most people don't even know about her almost. Like, and she was a huge deal. I mean, because, born in Philly.
Right
where we're recording.
Yeah.
Really made her bones with Mike Nichols and their comedy duo. They were huge.
Yeah, and he also goes on to direct and become a huge director.
Yeah.
And I was reading a little bit about his first movie, and he was kind of mentored by Billy Wilder. So he had that. When we talk about Elaine May, well, she kind of just fell into directing. It wasn't something she ever wanted to do. And, she just kind of did it out of force of habit at a certain point. She's a notorious perfectionist. A lot of these movies, the productions dragged on for months and months. She fought with studio heads and editors and producers and cast. Like, very difficult to work with. But we always talk about, we kind of like people that,
stick to their
the
guns.
Studio.
Yeah, I mean, and she has. I feel like almost every movie she's made has been a fucking problem. Maybe The Heartbreak Kid wasn't, but she's had issues with. I mean, she tried to get her name off of New Leaf. I think probably Mikey and Nicky.
Yeah.
She was stealing. We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
She's also a script doctor in Hollywood, so a lot of uncredited work, kind of punching up screenplays. That's kind of how she meets Warren Beatty. She does some work on Heaven Can Wait and Reds, and then also gets to know Dustin Hoffman she did some rewrites on Tootsie. So she's the one that kind of sets these pieces in motion. I would have figured that, Warren and Dustin, they're like two Hollywood heavy hitters. They were probably buddies and wanted to do a movie together, but she was the one that kind of orchestrated that. Well, we should jump back because a big reason I wanted to do this episode was I wanted to get you to watch these 3 other Elaine May movies because I had seen a couple of these movies over the years, and then maybe like a couple years ago, I finally was like, you know what, I'm going to watch Elaine May movies in order, save for Ishtar. And it was a very interesting kind of how I felt about these movies then. Revisiting them now, I have a different perspective on a lot of them.
I do as well, with one of them in particular.
But let's talk about the first one, which is A New Leaf in 1971. Had you ever seen this?
Never saw it.
What did you think?
I thought it was good.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
It's a really interesting movie.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's Matthau's performance is weird. It's almost like his face doesn't move.
Yeah.
The whole time. And he's such an odd, calculating character in a way. If you want to set the plot up, I thought it was pretty funny, but...
Well, she originally wants Cary Grant in that role, but I guess he didn't like how the character was painted out. He doesn't want to be, I can't be seen as a murderer. Like, that was his whole...
He also didn't want to swim in the water at the end.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, he didn't want to jump in the river.
But it's basically about this New York playboy who has been living life large on a parent's trust fund, and just push comes to shove, he's gone broke. And a really funny scene where his attorney is trying to explain to him in the beginning, like, no, you're not making any money. You have no money left. Like, you're broke. And he essentially comes up with a ploy where he needs to find a wealthy young lady, marry her, and then murder her. So I think the original plot comes from a short story. Yeah, it was based on a short story by writer Jack Ritchie. So I'm sure she adds some stuff in here, but... evidently, she turns in a 3.5-hour cut originally.
It's so funny.
And they're like, no, we can't have a 3.5-hour silly comedy. Basically what happens is, though, she is a perfectionist, and she decides that she's going to star in this movie.
Well, I don't know if she decided she was going to star in the movie. From what I remember, the studio Paramount wanted Carol Channing to play the part, Henrietta. He's Henry, she's Henrietta.
Yeah.
And she didn't want that. She thought the character should kind of be like in the background almost. Like Matthau's the star of the story. And she's kind of just there. And great decision, honestly, because she plays it really well. Real mousy, quiet, kind of stupid almost, kind of aloof.
She specifically wanted no hair or makeup on her in this movie to make her look... Because she's a pretty woman.
She is,
when you see her in
Definitely
this...
my type.
Yeah, she's got that... I would think the character in this, I know she's trying to be like...
Yeah.
But it's cute. She's not...
100%.
And, yeah, I don't know. I guess they convinced her to direct it because they could save money that way. I think a director fee usually was like $200,000. They offer her $50,000 to direct it. So she jumps into it. She does butt heads with Walter Matthau a little bit during the production of this movie. And a recent bio of Elaine May came out by Carrie Corrigan. It's called Miss May Does Not Exist. And we said Elaine May, very, very private person, so it's kind of hard to write a definitive biography on her, but this woman does a pretty good job of, picking through what's been written, what's been said. But there was a quote in this from something Matthau had said. Elaine May makes Hitler look like a little librarian.
Can you say it like... Hold on, let me make sure I do my Walter Matthau. I have to start with Bad News Bears. They call me Buttermaker. I can't fuck. God damn it, my throat's all jacked up. Whatever. Maybe next time.
It's a little bit Homer Simpson. Isn't that Homer Simpson again? It was like a failed Matthau impression.
Was it?
I think it was.
Buttermaker. They call me Buttermaker.
I for God's sakes.
Yeah, you gotta... Yeah.
She can literally do anything she wants. Give her 5 minutes and she'll master it. She doesn't need or want anybody's help. She may look frightened and insecure, but I don't believe it. She's going through an I must do everything myself stage now. She can, I guess, but she'll be dead first. She's using up the energy that 6 truck horses and 6 geniuses use in any given day. How can you pour out that kind of steam and not pay for it? So... She also like notorious chain smoker for most of her life. So she would just sit for like 16-hour days and just do nothing but work in the editing room and come back to this. And she's starring
10 months to edit
this movie.
40 days over schedule. Original budget of $1.8 million. It goes to $4. I don't even know how you like it's. She's an enormous waster, I have to say.
Yeah,
she is
I
not.
kind of like it.
She's not an economical filmmaker.
No.
I appreciate it too. It's not her money. But good Lord.
And Matthau has...
She's not Clint Eastwood, that's for sure, when it comes to filmmaking.
By the way, Clint, his partner, did you see that? She passed away.
No.
His 61-year-old girlfriend died.
Oh,
and
really?
94-year-old Clint is still going.
Okay. Keep
so,
going.
Walter Matthau's character Henry has a wealthy uncle in this movie who lends him $50,000. He's played by James Coco, who's great. And
Very flamboyant performance.
Henrietta has this like attorney who's in love with her, who's played by Jack Weston, who shows up in Ishtar, and he's also great. It's like he's taking advantage of her. That's where this movie gets interesting.
Yes, agreed.
Mathau, his whole plan is I'm going to just woo this woman. I'm going to marry her. I'm going to steal her money and kill her. And once he gets into her mansion, he realizes that everyone in her life is taking advantage of her. Mm-hmm. Her whole housekeeping staff, led by Doris Roberts, who's great. And I love how when he comes into this world, they're expecting he's going to be a part of it. Like they're having champagne, like welcome, and he's like, no, you're not doing this. Like this must stop. And
I was thrilled when he fired them all.
Starts firing them all.
Oh, dude, that was so triumphant for me. And not only that, can we give credit to the butler?
Henry's butler in this becomes like the one sympathetic.
George Rose plays Harold. It's such a funny performance. He's with him the whole time. Like it's great. He's like his only confidant, kind of.
Yeah. And
it's really funny. Like he's on the other side of the door listening to Walter Matthau try to woo the Henrietta character. It's great stuff.
I was reading, too, there's a scene when they're on their honeymoon and she has like a nightgown on and he's trying to help her. And Elaine May had them sew her into it so it was not removable and didn't tell Matthau that. So he's genuinely trying and it's not working.
That's great.
It's, and then the movie kind of has this, you kind of know where the ending has to go. He's not going to kill her, of course. But I love how when the movie ends, it's not, he doesn't have like this epic epiphany of like, I love you, no speech. He's just kind of like, Christ, I guess I do love her. It's very like understated.
It's super understated, but he also like, so they go on this like, she's a botanist for some university, and she likes to go on field trips to go out and look for things. She wants to find new ferns or whatever, which she does.
Yeah.
But they're on a canoe and it tips over, and of course she can't swim. So he just kind of lets her drown.
He's watching her drown,
Yeah. And then, he has that pang of like, not only that, she gives him a piece of the fern she found, and he loses that piece.
She names it after him.
Yeah. And then he sees the fern out in nature, and he's just like, ugh.
It's like that, oh, Christ. All right, I guess I'll save her.
But he's so dry in the film.
Great.
And you're right. It's not that epiphany like, I love you. It's more just like, all right, whatever, fine.
Yeah.
Like,
come on, let's go home. Like, he just kind of resigned to the fact that he's with her.
I guess I'll teach college with you.
That's the other thing. She wants him to go to work.
Yeah.
She's like, you can be so fun. You have your degree. You'll come tongue teach with me. And he's like,
and it's great too.
Maybe I'll teach.
The whole time up until he's wooing her, he's just useless. He is just spending money willy-nilly. He's not really doing anything. It's weird too. He has no interest in getting laid or anything because he has to go.
There's a scene early on where he's
trying to get women, and he's like he seems like almost terrified.
That to me, I'm like, all right, this is the stuff that was cut out because like it's a montage of him like trying to get women. It's very quick, but there's one where like a woman like goes to remove her top. And he screams and runs away. There's a lot of really funny stuff like that. Him just driving in this car.
His only interest is just kind of sitting around and spending money.
Yeah.
So it's great when he starts to like they go on the honeymoon, and then like the whole honeymoon he's looking up poisons to kill her, and he comes back and then he's trying to get her house in order, and he's looking at tax code and stuff, and the Harold character, the butler's like, I think you found your purpose here. Like, you're very good at all these things. And it's just not clicking with him. Like, that's the funniest part. He's not realizing how competent he's becoming until the end when I don't even think it registers then.
No.
He's just like, all right, I guess I do this now. It's a very funny way to end the movie. And you're right. It doesn't hit that sappy, sentimental note, which would be very easy to do. It's right there. And it avoids that. And, very good movie. Very funny.
It's definitely different. It's another one that's kind of hard to find. Some of these movies are hard to find. It's just enjoyable. It's a lot of fun. And I guess the big issue is that in her cut, he ends up actually murdering a couple people, including the attorney played by Jack Weston. And that's the stuff they cut out. So while this movie is a success financially and critically, she still insists that it's not her version, which is interesting. So that's how she begins her career.
But it is funny that, she shoots it. I've seen her get compared to Kubrick a lot in the amount of footage they shoot.
Yeah.
And, she always loses control of the edit, and, the version gets put out that she doesn't like. But to her credit, she's shot enough that it seems to be that there's enough good material that
they can salvage
it's
a movie.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what does Ebert? Ebert says here, Miss May is reportedly dissatisfied with the present version. Newspaper reports indicate that their original cut was an hour longer and included 2 murders, as you said. Mathau, who likes this version better than the original, has suggested that the writer-director stars should be willing to let someone else have a hand in editing. Maybe so. I'm generally prejudiced in favor of director in these disputes. Whatever the merits of Miss May's case, however, the movie in its present form is hilarious and cockeyed and warm. And it is. It's good in the form that it got. So
it works out in a way. And she follows us up the following year with a movie called The Heartbreak Kid, which is based on a play, and I guess Neil Simon then adapts it from his play. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a kind of a weird, for Neil Simon, it's kind of it's not his own work.
Yeah. Which is different.
Adapts a play for a screenplay.
Right,
like,
that he didn't write. Very, very strange. But this is a movie that for years I had been hearing, like, this is one of the best romantic comedies ever made, and I can never find it. And I don't like to give in to the piracy laws of the internet. I was trying to find this movie on physical media for the longest time.
I don't share that.
I know. I would go to FYE, and they have like the labels popped up. We're saying The Heartbreak Kid. I rush over, and it's all copies of the Ben Stiller Farrelly Brothers remake. And eventually, I had to give in because it's the only way you can watch this movie. It's owned by a pharmaceutical company,
Bristol Myers Squibb,
who also owns another great movie, Sleuth, which I did find on DVD. It's one of my proudest physical media. It's like that holy grail of movies you want to find out in the wild.
Sure.
But they I don't know what the deal is with them. They just don't release the stuff. So it's very hard to see this movie, but it's iconic for what it is. What did you think?
It is really strange because I've heard about this movie for years, and then, like you said, I went to go look for it. I'm like, wait, what the fuck?
You can't find it anywhere.
Like, I figured this would be a $4 rental. Like, I'm like, I can't watch The Heartbreak Kid? I'm like, huh?
What did you think of it?
Excruciating.
You didn't like this movie?
No, I liked it a lot. It's
brutal.
I thought it was going to be kind of a sillier movie, which I'm sure the Farrelly Brothers remake is. Dude, it's excruciating to say. It almost makes you think, like, I'm not going to... Who got into that, like, comedy? Like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm watching this train wreck. I can't look away. Like, that's this movie. And I'm like, did she kind of, like, get, like... This is what, 1972?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised at the time. Like, this is fucking brutal, man.
Yeah, it's a shame because
it's good. I liked it.
People are going to know this story from the Ben Stiller movie, which is essentially a guy gets married and then on his honeymoon falls in love with another woman.
In a short time frame, he gets married.
Yeah. Now, here's a couple things because I did decide to watch the Farrelly Brothers version, which they were very kind to me when I was a young man. I've told these stories many times. Their remake exemplifies everything wrong with modern comedy.
Yeah, I didn't watch it.
It does. It's just in the original, the woman he marries is played by Elaine May's daughter, Jeannie Berlin, who looks a lot like her. It's kind of scary how much they're alike, but she plays it. She's like kind of annoying, but she's well-meaning.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if anything, the movie could have made her a little more detestable.
In the Farrelly Brothers version, that character is painted to be just a witch and like, oh, she's evil and has huge pubic hair, and it's just insane.
Yeah, you got to find the happy medium.
It's almost like it's like an easy way to go.
Agreed,
you know,
yes.
like, well, let's make the woman he leaves has to be like maniacal and evil, and that makes it more sympathetic.
That's what made this movie so surprising. And I'm like, yeah, she's a bit of a yenta, but like, I don't know.
I like her more.
She's not that bad. Yeah,
and I love Sybil Shepherd.
Cold,
but I like, and you can. That's kind of where this movie goes.
Right.
At the end, you're like. And the first time I watched this movie, I was like, oh, that's the ending. Now I kind of understand a little bit better. It's like this man gave up everything, his family, his life, where he lived to pursue this other woman, and he's just alone.
Yeah.
The family doesn't like him. She doesn't even really seem to like him. Like when he shows up to pursue her at wherever Midwest town she
she's
lives.
Just like, look, I was really flattered.
It's like,
flattered? What do you mean? And we got to talk about King Grodin.
I mean, you don't see young Charles Grodin. There's not many movies where he's like a young romantic lead, but this is one.
Yeah.
Very young, one of his first movie roles. And it's interesting to see him in that light.
Yeah.
But you kind of hate him.
Yeah.
You know?
At the same time, though, it's like, I don't know if it's movie brain. Like, you're watching the protagonist, and you're like, get the girl.
Yeah.
Like, you want him, like, you're like, well, you're on this journey. I want to see you do it. But you're just like, because it's almost immediately like they go on the honeymoon in Miami. Mm-hmm. He goes on the beach. He sees Sybil Shepherd, and then it's just like wife. Wife who?
Yeah.
And watching him like go through the little lies he's telling to sneak away.
He's a piece of shit.
He's such a piece of garbage.
He's like, honey, I can't. He was in a car accident. I can't just abandon him. I have to go to his family.
And she's so nice
she's
in a way.
like,
She's
okay, well, can we still have dinner later? He's like, yes, of course, 9 p.m. Be ready. We're gonna have the pecan pie. It's great. It's like you watch him over and over again, just like. Because she gets sunburned really bad at a certain point, and she can't
pretty
leave,
quickly.
Yeah, she doesn't want to leave the room, so that gives him some wiggle room. But eventually, she gets better.
Yeah,
and she just wants to enjoy the honeymoon, and he's like,
you can't help but feel for her because, like you said, she's not that bad.
No,
brutal film. I was surprised how brutal it was.
And by the way, Jeannie Berlin is nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and Eddie Albert is nominated for Best Supporting Actor, who is great in this as the father of Sybil Shepherd.
Very good character.
There's a scene where, again, I'm going to talk about the remake a little bit, but in this movie, he lets Sybil Shepherd know fairly early on that I'm married.
Yeah.
And she knows that and is kind of having fun with it.
Definitely,
of course,
toying with him almost.
In the remake, you have to have that liar reveal moment at the very end so the two characters can get in a big fight and go their separate ways and then reconnect at the end. Like, that's what the remake does. It's terrible. It makes it out to be this is the true woman he should be with.
I was telling you before before we started, you know, me, myself, and Irene, I remember being okay. But man, the Farley, whatever, the two Irish bastards, they just really started like that rote, predictable, like,
They really are obsessed too with like putting like not like weird looking people in their movies enough where it's like, what are you trying to do here?
Funny after a certain point. It's too. I see it coming. I know your beats.
Fucking Carlos Mencia's in this movie, the remake.
Oh
my dude, it's the whole because it's of course we have classic 70s Miami Beach. It's fun. It's like, no, let's do this big resort so the whole cast can go on vacation. The remake it takes place in Mexico, and Carlos Mencia, when he was at the height of his fucking popularity, has to be just the hey, what's up? It's like,
does he say Beaner?
I'm sure he does. And then another thing, dude, it's like,
man, I haven't heard that slur in a while. Wow.
It's the only good part is Jerry Stiller plays Ben Stiller's character's father.
I could see that,
and he's fantastic. It's so much fun. But I was telling Ryan before we started recording, it's like in every Ben Stiller movie there has to be this misunderstanding scene where he stumbles over his words. And it's like.
Ben Stiller is such squandered talent to me.
God,
I think he's great, but
we liked him in Mystery Men. We talked about.
I hated him in Mystery Men.
I know we said when the shtick got too much, but there is a good actor in there.
I like Ben Stiller a lot. I rarely like him in anything. It's weird. Man. It's one of those things, man. It's very strange.
But if you want to perfectly see why modern comedy fails and why these older movies are always going to be more timeless, you have to watch the original Heartbreak Kid followed up with the remake, because you can see that's when I went into it, I'm like, maybe they just like call it the Heartbreak Kid. It's not really a remake. It's just like a marketable thing in marketing and titles. And no, there are literally scenes that are exactly the same.
Well, I mean, look, it's a good premise in the sense that like you get married quick to this dream girl. You think, oh my God, this beautiful girl. Malin Ackerman's very pretty.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh sure, what the hell? Why not? And then you find out she's, bad, terrible.
Right.
And then you bump into someone you might actually... Look, it's a good premise.
And it's someone we like. It's, what's her name from Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
Michelle Monaghan,
yeah,
right?
And she's great. And But what's so great about the original, again, is that there's none of that, let's paint this character to be ugly or cruel or like she's having an affair and bullying him. No, she's shown to be a very sympathetic,
like I said, she's just a goofy yenta.
But it's...
Well, that's the other thing, too. I mean, this movie's coming from a much more personal place. There's that whole Jewish thing.
Right.
Which is where at the end, he's chasing that WASP ideal, and he gets it. And you have to remember, too, when they're driving down for the honeymoon, they're kind of singing songs with each other. So I think, what's the one he's humming at the end? I think it's... What the world needs now is love. It might have been that one, or it's a Carpenter song. I can't remember which fucking one it is.
I could teach the world to sing. It's that, and like two teams.
But they're singing it to each other on the way down, and then there's that. I thought it was great because I know some audience were pissed off because it seems like the movie just ends. But he's at the wedding talking to all these people he has zero connection with because he's abandoned the life he had connections with for this ideal he wanted, and it's just mindless drivel he's saying to them. And he ends up saying it to like two kids, and they're just like, huh? And they walk away, and it's just him on the couch alone, like lightly. You almost don't even hear it.
No
He's
one's talking to him.
humming the first few bars of that song, and the movie's over. And like, what a fucking great ending,
Yeah,
man!
it's great.
It's a bullet to your heart. It's great, man.
It's
brutal.
This is one of
Brutal
those movies
movie.
that someone needs to get the rights to it. Someone needs to buy these rights from this fucking pharmaceutical company and put it out, remaster it, because you can. This is the one where I'm going to make the case. Go get it how you have to get it, because it's so good and it's so different and it's just unlike anything.
I was expecting something so much sillier.
Yeah.
Like I was like, dude, this is. I was squirming.
I love the
watching
scene
it.
too when he decides that I'm in love with Sybil Shepherd's character. I'm going to go out to dinner with her and her parents and announce my intentions. And he's building up like, I have to be honest with you, sir. Like I fell in love. I didn't expect to, and I'm taken with her. And the mother's smiling in the background, like, it's just so sweet.
Yeah.
And he goes, "But Sarah, I have to tell you that I am actually here on my honeymoon, and I've realized I made." And it's just the way his face drops and the way
and it's great. She directs the scene beautifully because it's just a one shot, unmoving camera, and it's just that scene.
Yeah.
And you, like you said, you watch it unfold, and their faces change and everything. And like, who's the dad again?
Eddie Albert.
Fucking great in
he's
this,
so good.
man. And he, eventually he tries to pay him off because the Charles Grodin character just keeps. That's why I kind of almost started to like him. He's relentless. He's so driven.
Yeah. So
And-
it's Minnesota, by the way. So he gives up this life in New York City, his career, where he lives, his friends, his family, to go to Minnesota where she's in college.
It's just so honest out here.
that's-
Like his bullshit rap is,
Well, even when
pretty funny.
he surprises her, he kind of shows up there, and she's like with all her friends in school, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
you're here. Like, it's just like it's brutal. It's
Yeah.
such a careful what you wish for type thing, but it's something. And I really hope it gets rediscovered because it's great.
Yeah, really surprising movie.
But like you said, this is one that she relatively had no major studio interference problems with. She still takes a little bit of break. She comes back 4 years later with a movie called Mikey and Nicky, which I had seen.
I had seen too.
And you said this is one your opinion changed on.
Yeah, so it was during the pandemic. We were locked down. I didn't have a job at the time, drinking heavily. And I would just burn through movies. And I don't know if I had a Criterion Pass or your thing, or it might have been on HBO.
Criterion has put this out.
I was just burning through movies, and I think we had started doing the show. So Ishtar was on the radar, and I was like, Mikey and Nicky, Elaine May. I'm like, what? I knew who she was, Mike Nichols, and all that. I'm like, the fuck is she doing making a movie like this? It's got Peter Falk and John Cassavetes. I love them both. They're two kind of low-level gangsters or whatever. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm drunk, and I watch it, and I go, wow, that was kind of interesting. I watch it again for this. This movie's awful, dude.
You don't like this movie?
This movie's terrible.
Wow. I like this movie.
Did you?
Yeah, it's
awful.
You can tell there were a lot of problems behind the scenes with stuff, and
it's an improv movie.
She lets them get away for.
I have to say this. She shot. Let me get the number here. She shot 1.4 million feet of film for this piece of garbage. Almost 3 times as much as was shot for Gone with the Wind. The average movie is 10,000 feet of film. She shot 1.4 million feet
of film.
Of Drek.
Yeah, of two guys arguing.
Here, ready. Here's the movie in a nutshell. Come on, Nicky, drink the milk. Come on, you gotta drink. Come on, what do you want me to drink? You want me to drink this milk? Nicky, drink the milk. Come on, you got to have some. If you don't drink your milk, what are you saying? You want me to drink this milk? Come on, I got this milk here. Why don't you drink it?
You know why you don't like this movie?
Because it's shit.
No, it's because you're Nick and I'm a Mikey.
Is that the case?
I think that's it. There's many scenes where they're out in the world. He's like, I want to go to the movie now. It's like you've done that spontaneous.
Look, Cassavetes. The two of them have great chemistry. They made all the Cassavetes movies together. They always had a loose improv
I have to
feel.
get into? That's someone I would like to.
Agreed. But it doesn't work here. They're too there's nothing going on. It's babble. It's long. It's nothing's happening.
I'm going to disagree with you because I think that essentially what the movie is about is Cassavetes plays Nicky, and he's this mob kind of lackey who is convinced that there's a hit being put out on him because he stole some money.
Yeah.
He calls his best friend Mikey, who's played by Peter Falk. By the way, this movie shot in Philadelphia, captures a great looking 70s Philadelphia. I think so.
Whatever, you barely see it.
The two of them kind of get into this thing where we eventually find out that Mikey is setting him up, and he's trying to Nicky is trying to constantly keep them moving from location to location to throw off if he's making phone calls. Ned Beatty plays the hitman who's after them.
Which I like that little wrinkle.
It's a
Ned
good,
Beatty as a hitman's good.
I
But
don't know,
Nicky doesn't know that he suspects like anything could be
I had
happening.
the complete opposite than you did with this movie. The first time I saw it, it was also during the pandemic. I think as it got added to Max, was very underwhelmed. I rewatched it this time. I liked it. I just because I kind of knew what to expect, I guess.
Well, I think that maybe that was my problem. Look,
Yeah.
and here's the other thing. I said this to you before.
Will you stop being a horse's ass and open the door? It's just it's constantly him.
They're just repeating the lines over and over. I'm like, you guys didn't even try for this one.
Yeah.
They're just like, it's going to be we're so natural.
Well, because she encouraged them both to go off the script and like.
Well, here, let me give you this little anecdote because it's pretty damn funny. May captured spontaneous interaction between Falk and Cassavetes. At one point, Cassavetes and Falk had both left the set, and cameras remained rolling for several minutes. A new camera operator said cut, only to be immediately rebuked by May for usurping what is traditionally a director's command. This is from Wikipedia, but this is a legendary story. He protested that the two actors had left the set. Yes, replied May, but they might come back. So she's burning film, getting nothing.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, dude, they just repeat everything back and forth to each other. Nothing's really happening. But I have to say this. We are recording this on Sunday, July 21st. I told you, and this could have contributed to this, I have been enormously distracted by the past couple weeks of the modern world and everything going on.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't have the patience for this fucking movie. But man, I was watching it this time around and I was just like, this has to end. And it's a miserable film too. It's a bummer.
It is.
It's a big bummer
there's
film.
Zero optimistic redeeming qualities about
nothing.
it. Yeah, it's brutal. It's that scene with the prostitute. It's just like
that. I'm like, fuck these guys.
Yeah.
Like, well, Peter Falk, like, you got to get laid? Like, what was that?
I think
You're always setting me up.
He lived his whole life kind of as like this guy's punchline.
I know, but but why do you got to
Open your
bang
mouth
this
now.
girl while he's in the kitchen?
I do love the scene when he goes into the coffee shop to get the cream.
That's the best scene.
Yeah,
that's the best scene.
Which is
and he freaks
it's
out
a
on the
pizza shop now in Rittenhouse. But
is it?
Yeah, it's you can still see there's a couple locations I couldn't figure out. The whole hotel, the opening, those archways, you can still see those. It's very I like shit like that.
I hear you, dude. I do too.
The old bars, the old theaters.
I like dirty 70s Northeastern America. I get it.
I like this movie. I can't.
I think it's one of the most overrated movies.
Wow.
People have this like.
It's certainly the most readily available of her movies.
Super easy to find.
Well,
it's Criterion now at this point.
I think because it's again a major studio, it's easier for them to. But I don't know. I guess she also has a final cut issue with this movie. Like originally, the studio puts out. They need to satisfy the whatever like exhibition agreements were in place, so they rush out or like an early cut to satisfy distributors, and then
she also stole 2 reels.
She hides 2 reels in someone's attic or something, and years later finishes it. And I think the version that Criterion has put out is her definitive version because they're very big on director sanction.
I think it may be,
but there are noticeable gaps in continuity and just the way things are cut. You can tell shit's missing, and they're trying to like.
It's got that horrible.
Someone's got a cigarette in one hand, it cuts. It's in the other hand. It's stuff like that where I don't know. I still like
Cassavetes at his worst.
It reminds me of being out with you and trying to.
Hey man,
I remember like years and years ago when we were in our 20s, we lived in the same town, blocks away from each other.
Sure.
There were many nights we would drink and just enjoy some movies. And then like I remember you'd be like, "Come on, the sun's coming up. Let's go. Let me walk with me to go buy some cigarettes." And I would feel like that, like walking down the street with you.
I can appreciate that. That's funny.
Ryan, come on. No, what are you doing? No, we're not going. We got to go home.
Come on, Joey. Come on. Let's go get some cigarettes. Come on. I need some cigarettes. Come on. Let's go. Come on. Get up. Okay, now I can kind of hear him. I can see Joey and Rye guy.
We should do it.
Wait, what the fuck? I've been bombing you to. We need to film something. So
I tried watching Husbands.
You want to do a Mikey and Nicky remake?
Have you seen Husbands?
No. I gotta get into this whole thing.
If you don't like just people fucking talking,
I don't mind it. This one was just so aimless. In a sense, like it was.
It's because they're just trying. He's trying to waste time. That's the whole point.
I know, but it was still.
You didn't like him fighting with Emmett Walsh on the bus when they get the whole thing. That's funny.
It's good. You know what it was though. I really hated his character.
Because it's you.
Maybe a mirror was being held. Oh, come on, I'm not that much of a cunt. Like, give me a break.
Open your mouth, Ryan. Ryan, take the pill. Take the judge's shelf.
Dude,
come on.
I was like, just eat it. I can't eat it. I can't do it. It was just so like.
I love when he just starts wailing against the door of the motel. Open it up. Come on.
It was just so actorly in the worst way. I just found it very phony almost. And Cassavetes really like.
You stop being a horse's ass.
You're gonna make me like the movie, dude. I hated it so much. I'm like, I gotta watch it again.
You should probably.
I think I need to give it another shot.
Wait until the world has
calms down a little bit. Yeah,
and
I won't be as distracted.
I don't know much about Cassavetes though, but he does seem like another one that was a little bit difficult to work with.
He had his own ideas about things. I think I've sent you the clip. It's so funny to me, but it's him, Peter Falk, and Ben Gazzara, and they're hammer drunk on Dick Cavett show.
Oh yeah,
and they're just wrestling. He's like, "So, you guys are making a new movie," and they just are wrestling on the floor with each other, like ignoring him.
That's
it's
amazing.
Fucking great. Yeah, they were all big drinkers, but I love it. They were all just doing their own thing, and Cassavetes, a very independent guy. He's great in Dirty Dozen.
He's great, and I mean everything I've seen.
I just
don't know. Like I haven't seen much of his own films,
sure.
And I'm really going to try to check those out because it seems
He's
good.
just such a piece of garbage in this movie, and I'm normally okay with I don't need to like a character to like a movie,
right?
But I found him detestable. Like I
mean,
really didn't like him.
I think that's part of it. But
I know it's like that's a weird criticism, but it is what it is. I really thought it sucked
this
ass.
This is another really terrible studio situation. She battles it out with them, like we were saying, hiding the film from them and stuff like that. So it kind of makes her take a pause of directing for many years. But fortunately, in 1978,
10 years.
Yeah, that's when Warren comes out with Heaven Can Wait, which I did watch. I'd never seen that. Did you watch that for our Dick Tracy episode?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember a ton from it. I remember it being okay.
It's good.
I didn't love it. I was like,
Jack Warden, who we love, is in it. He's really funny.
I was like, all right, it's okay.
It's good. You kind of know exactly what it's one of those like that person reincarnated type movies, but it's fun. She comes in to punch up that script. She also does a little punching up on Reds as well as Tootsie and Labyrinth. But before we get to Ishtar, I want to talk about two movies that she writes for Mike Nichols. The two of them kind of go their separate ways for years. They got burnt out and they kind of had a creative falling out.
Yeah.
And they get back into the fold for The Birdcage, which is the remake of La Cage aux Folles, which I heard Paul Thomas Anderson say about The Birdcage. It's one of those movies that if you see it on, you have to watch it to completion. I don't know how you feel about it.
I like it. I love. I'll tell you what. I actually really like. And this is the Ishtar gets into it a little bit with the two leads. I love how Robin Williams plays the button-up guy.
Right.
And Nathan Lane is the big crazy performance because I always like Robin Williams in that. But playing against the
reserve character
against a nut
because it was supposed to be Steve Martin in the Robin Williams role, and Robin Williams was going to play the Nathan Lane part.
So much better this way.
I think he thought there were the Mrs. Doubtfire similarity stuff like that. But for me, the who steals the show is Gene Hackman and Diane Wiest as the conservative.
Absolutely.
It's watching that political scandal unfold.
Yeah, it's really funny.
It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse for him, and it's the best because he's like on the moral committee.
Yeah,
and it's just like it turns out like originally she's underage, now she's underage and she's black, and then like he called her chocolate, and that got leaked out. It's like it just keeps getting worse, and he just can't.
Yeah,
it's so funny, and then the whole concept of him like falling for Nathan Lane is the mother.
It's really good.
It's great.
It's Hackman too. It's perfect. He's perfect
so
at it. Elaine May's real good about that. People get confused at what satire is and what it needs to be. She really has a good handle on how to do that. And it's mocking, but it's not. I don't know. It's hard to explain really, but she kind of seems to really get that. But yeah, Birdcage is great. And like I said, I love. It's not that he's playing against type necessarily, but him against that bigger character, Robin Williams. I think it's really effective.
Well, it's also, I think she brings in the idea that the in-laws are conservative politicians. I think that's something that she brings to it to kind of heighten it a bit, and it works. It's needed. Because I think in the original French play and the film, they're just opposite in-laws.
Sure.
But she gives it the stakes that I think it really helps the story.
Yeah.
And it's just funny. It's a funny goddamn movie.
Hank Azaria as the houseboy.
Hank Azaria as the...
He's great.
He's probably apologizing for this too.
I'm sure. Yeah, a gay man should have played that role. I'm upset. I'm real busted up over it.
But Nathan Lane too. I mean, Nathan Lane's incredible.
Yeah,
and just I think it's like his big breakout role. He
had
done
to have been huge
things,
for him.
It's so nice to see him just the wave of emotions that character kind of like when it's because it is kind of heartbreaking. You have this dickhead
Could be
son
annoying, too.
It's not. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It really walks
It's
the line
endearing.
there. It's endearing.
Because that is an easy role to make. Be like, all right, already.
The only thing that's kind of like annoying is that the two kids are supposed to be like 18 and 20, and they're like 35 years old. It just doesn't work for me. But everything else about this movie, man, it's great. And
It's good. Nichols is solid. We're definitely going to come back to Nichols.
we will. But then I also wanted to follow it up with another movie I had seen years ago that Mike Nichols directs, and he brings in Elaine to write, which is Primary Colors.
I had seen this. I've been meaning to rewatch it because I loved this movie when I saw it. And like I said, the satire. But, I mean, is it even satire?
I was just going to say, it's a great movie to show just how disgusting American politics are.
So this was based on a book, I think it was called Primary Colors, by Anonymous.
Yeah,
it was a
originally
huge book.
anonymous.
It eventually came out, I think it was Joe Klein, who was in some capacity in the Clinton administration.
Yeah, and he was a Time magazine, I believe he wrote for them. But,
Correct.
I told Ryan, like, I'm watching this movie. I'm like, yeah, no, this is really good. I just wish, they didn't get so bombastic and invent some of these storylines. And like I'm reading up after, I'm like, oh no, the majority of these things happened.
It's a dirty business, man.
The movie kind of moves them around and invents new characters, but it's like it really makes you see just how gross and calculated and malicious politics are. Yeah. And just how life-destroying they can be.
That's why it turns my stomach anytime any of them get on TV and it's like, they put on that fucking, like, I'm here for you. Like, especially Clinton, like, ugh. But I mean, Travolta.
Travolta's perfect in this. Yeah,
he nails
Emma
that.
Thompson is great.
Yeah,
and
everyone.
For me, the movie like starts to dip a little bit in the middle, and then Kathy Bates comes in, and it just energizes it back up.
Did she get an Oscar for this?
I think she was nominated. Let me see.
It's a really good performance.
Yeah, she was nominated for her performance, and May was nominated for Best Screenplay.
That makes
Best Adapted
sense.
Screenplay.
It's a very good movie.
It's. I think this is another one where you expect, it's just going to be like a silly, like, it's a goofy, like, political kind of satire about, like. No, it's deep. It really shows you just how disgusting politics can be.
I miss politic movies like this. It's everyone's too encamped on either side now to really make an honest appraisal. Because let's not mince words here. Elaine May is a Democrat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
This movie's not. Don't go easy on it's Clinton because it's Clinton.
It's Clinton, 100%.
It's
Stanton.
Is that what it is? Stanton. Yeah. It's fucking Clinton.
Yeah.
Like, and it pulls no punches, and it's like. That's what it requires, an honest eye on things.
And Emma Thompson does such a great role as his wife, where it's just like the composure she has to put on with all the shit that's going on behind the scenes, the reports coming out on what this guy's done. She's so great at that. And I mean, everyone is great, and it's you expect it's going to be light and funny, but it's really serious, and it
is funny though.
It is a funny movie too. Yeah. Kathy Bates, a lot of that comes from her.
I remember there was that one scene. Fuck, who is it? It's when the Stanton character's talking to, I think, his opponent.
Larry Hagman.
Larry Hagman. Yes. I still remember that scene.
It's great
because it's so.
He's
sticking the knife in. But he's doing it in that. I guess it's a friendly, like,
like, hey, it's going to come out. I'm letting you know.
I'm going to shank you.
Yeah,
I can shank you now, or I can shank you later.
That's the thing too. Travolta is just like.
Travolta's an underrated actor.
I love Travolta.
He's done so much goofy, dumb shit, and he's such a punchline now.
There's a couple movies like this that I might check out again. Man of the Year. Do you remember that one with Robin Williams? Speaking of Robin Williams, where he's like
like a Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart-esque. And then there's a movie with Kevin Costner called Swing
Vote. Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
One man has to decide the presidential election. So I wish there were more. We're gone. We can't get back to this. They're not going.
I don't think you see Primary Colors again.
Never again. No, it just doesn't happen. There's too much bias on both sides.
We're too divided.
Yep. Right down that fucking line. You can't do this
anymore. I don't know
anymore.
how you do it.
No, and it would be interesting. Like even as far back as like
I could do it.
You could do it.
But I'm the only one left.
The Ed Harris movie about Palin. I think that's a great movie. It's similar.
It's a Game Change.
Game Change.
Yeah, I heard that was all right.
It's pretty good. It's just it shows you that this thing where it's like you could respect politicians on either side is something that's gone.
That's okay.
Yeah. There's no problem with that. But I'm saying that's why you can never do a movie like this and appease mass audiences.
Well, if Elaine May made this movie today, they'd be like, "You're a Republican. You betrayed our party," and it's like, what? Huh? It's a weird way to think.
It is.
It's bizarre. It's always been alien to me to think that way. But here we are.
And then following this, she does. It's worth mentioning. We've been going through the kind of some of the Woody Allen movies if we can. He does bring her to star in Small Time Crooks with him, which is a fun movie we might come back to at a certain point. And she also stars with him in that Amazon TV series he did, Crisis in Six Scenes,
I heard
which
that was awful.
Yeah, people don't like that at all.
No. I mean, but once again, is that because we're going to start attacking the press?
Yeah.
But is that like because Woody's persona non grata now? He just makes movies in France. He just came out with a Coup de Chance or something.
I don't know, man. I would bet it's not very good.
I would also probably say it's probably not very good.
I often think that there are more. I've said it on the show. There are more bad Woody movies than good ones. And this looks like Miley Cyrus. I don't know. It's just.
Oh, I thought that is the one she's in. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's Wonder Wheel?
That's the one with it's got the Belushi in it and Kate Winslet and Justin Timberlake. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's just. But yeah, so eventually she is lured back into directing Ishtar, which, the story behind the scenes is a lot crazier than what ends up happening in the movie. It kind of all begins when she meets Warren Beatty and they do this work together. At some point, I don't know why, I couldn't really find out why this happened. They go to North Africa, they take a trip. I think they just became friends.
Yeah.
And they travel together.
He really, I mean, like, we were getting into this a little earlier. He was, writing, directing, producing, starring in Reds, which I have no interest. I hate communists, period. Mm-hmm. Reds is a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
I think it's 4 stars. Reds is so good, but it was getting away from him.
Right.
It was, that's a big deal. Like, budget, story. She came in and really got him on track with the story, did a lot of work there. And after that, because it was a huge hit, Best Director, I think he won. Like, he was like, I owe her one.
Well, he also saw what she had went through with the other movies.
He felt she had never had up someone in her corner. Right. And he was like, I'm going to be in her corner. I'm going to back her up totally. I have all the juice in the world right now. Let me get her to make her movie that the way she wants, no interference, nothing.
And I have to give him credit.
No good deed goes unpunished.
He does go to bat for her on this.
He does.
He takes the concept to the head of Columbia, who is his former publicist, Guy McElwain. So right off the bat, he's got the in at Columbia. And he says, you also just look at what Beatty had put out. You had Heaven Can Wait and Reds, huge hits.
Shampoo.
That he was creative force behind.
Yeah, there was something else too.
So it's like no one's going to say no to him at this point. But anyway, she wants to pay tribute to these Road to Bob Hope, Bing Crosby movies, which this might shock people who are fans of me, and hats off. I don't love those movies.
Really?
I think there's one joke. It's kind of like, wink, wink, here we are. Look at this. It's like, Paramount, look at that. They're going to pay us more money. And it's just like, they sing songs, and like then Dorothy Lamour shows up, and it's the same shit kind of just against different backdrops.
Sure.
There's very funny verbal bits, but it's like, you could watch a compilation of all those movies and get the best of it.
I didn't even bother. No. I had a feeling.
And so I understand what she's trying to do with that. But again, at the same time, I mean, talk about history repeating itself. You have immense conflict in the Middle East going on at the same time. You had Palestinian forces took this cruise ship, and like a Jewish American guy in a wheelchair got killed. Like,
yeah, they threw him off. They killed him off the boat into the sea.
And then you have Dustin Hoffman's even worried that he's going to become like a political prisoner during this movie.
Because he's a huge Jewish star at the time.
And it's like he's got a family, so he's really worried. I guess eventually they're able to calm him by saying Morocco is like the safest place you can be in the Middle East, so they agree to it. But yeah, and like you said, Coca-Cola had money tied up in the Middle East, so it was like crazy shit going on behind the scenes in this. And then, as we were saying, of course, as this is in production, the head of Columbia Pictures changes. It becomes Putnam.
Charlie Putnam, I think?
David, I want to say. David Putnam.
Okay.
Yeah. Who had been a producer on a movie we talk about as a punchline a lot, Chariots of Fire.
Yeah.
Because we always say, no one's ever seen this movie. You just know about the scene where they're running on the beach. That movie competes for Best Picture with Reds. Wins against Reds. Yeah. So the press between Beatty and him got kind of contentious there.
Putnam was a big critic, too, of like bloated studio budgets.
Right.
Which Beatty, I mean... I think he went insane on Reds with that. So
he talked shit about him in the press. So that happened. And then He's also involved in a film called Agatha, which I guess is like an Agatha Christie. She goes missing.
So I had to look at this. That was a true story. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I neither.
She
Interesting.
just disappeared.
She disappeared for a bit, yeah.
No one really knows what happened there
And,
either. I think she just kind of went off the reservation. But,
I think so, too.
But yeah, Dustin Hoffman had like a bit part in that movie and kind of took it over and made his part bigger. At least that's the way the story goes. And Putnam was not too happy about that.
So Putnam was completely, against this movie.
He didn't like either of them.
As soon as he inherited it, he's like, fuck this. Also, he inherits this and Leonard Part 6. Those are like the first big movies Columbia are putting out that year. And he's like, what the fuck?
God.
Like, so he really starts to kind of generate bad press around this movie when it's in production. And don't get me wrong, money's being burned on this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Williams does the songs. He evidently...
Which I have had the one song in my head since then.
Give us a taste.
Telling the truth can be dangerous business. Na 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 na. I forget after that because I don't even know if there's words after that.
Telling the truth can be dangerous business. Honest and popular don't go hand in hand. If you admit that you can play the accordion, no one will hire you in a rock and roll band.
But
he wrote all these songs,
He wrote all these songs, and then, like...
you hear snippets of. I think they're full songs.
He, yeah, I guess they, she wanted to keep him on the payroll in case they needed more songs, so he was just hanging out on set. He was just in Morocco hanging out.
Right, loving it.
It's kind of like what Altman did with Harry Nilsson on Popeye, where it's like, you just kind of kept him there, and he's hanging out with the crew.
Have another drink, Harry.
Yeah, it's insane that that's what's going on.
Paul Williams, by the way, played like the villain in Phantom of the Paradise, which if none of you have seen that, I really, really recommend checking out. He's a real Weasley guy in that. Excellent movie.
This is, again, from this great book, Miss May Does Not Exist. Believing that any formal blocking would lead to unnatural results, Elaine ran 3 cameras simultaneously and left the movement entirely up to her actors. So there's no blocking happening in this movie. And, dude... There's a scene it feels like 80 minutes where they're in the desert on a camel. It just goes on. It's just the two of them yelling and trying to get on this camel. It's going in circles. It's just...
Meanwhile, I think Beatty brought him in. And this guy, I mean, I'll say this, Ishtar looks phenomenal because Beatty brought in Vittorio Storaro, famous cinematographer of Conformist, Apocalypse Now. I mean, like...
Last Tango in Paris, right?
Yeah. The guy's also never done a comedy before. And he's dealing with Elaine May, who's not blocking. Like...
Can you imagine?
Yeah, well, he said... I think there's one anecdote here where he's like, every day I'd be like, we have to shoot it this way to match the sun. And she's like, no, I want to shoot it over here. So he realized, he was like, I'm just going to tell her the opposite. So she'll go, no, I don't want that. And he's like, all right, now I got what I wanted. Like, here's the other thing, too. So he brings in his whole Italian crew to work with him because he's an Italian. They need an American crew, too. So that American crew is on standby
waiting,
getting double time, doing nothing.
She also... So there's a nightclub in Morocco where they perform at called Chez Casablanca. That's a set that existed in New York. She kept the set built for 10 months because she wasn't sure if they would need to do reshoots. So the studio's like... We're just paying to have a set rented out where nothing is happening.
At a point, you got to go, the studio's got a point here.
It's a wrap.
Yeah, like...
So
But who were they going to go to? Warren Beatty he
went to bat for her. I have to give him credit.
And you can tell, if you read, there's a great Peter Biskin article. It's in Vanity Fair. I don't know if it's an excerpt from Beatty's biography or what, but it's about the making of this. And he clearly knew they were in trouble.
So this is... what he tells Dustin Hoffman was worried behind the scenes, like, is this going to work?
They all were.
She's never had a good producer. They never surrounded her with right people. I'm going to be there. I'm going to make sure she has the room to do her best work, he insisted. So, we love Warren. We've talked about him. Dick Tracy, we did. An incredible film.
At this point, he's an established director.
Right.
You could look at Reds. It's fucking great.
I just had so much
to
watch.
It's long.
Yeah.
It's long. But the guy knows how to direct, and he's an actor. So he knows how to direct actors. He knows what's necessary there. And there was like a million times on this production where it's like, do I need to take over here? Because he's also a producer on Ishtar. So he's like, do I need to fire her? Like, I can't do it. And his hands were tied a little bit by his own good grace. Like,
so
that's gotta be a horrible position to be in.
As this movie is skyrocketing costs, you have the studio putting out these reports, sabotaging it because he wanted to get back at Warren Beatty and Dustin Hoffman, and here they are starring together for the first time in a movie.
Sure.
Coincidentally, when I become the studio head, so he puts out a ton of negative press on this movie. It doesn't help that it is just dragging. I mean, we're talking about 10 months of editing again.
Well, here's the other thing too: the jackals in the press just smell blood in the water, and not only that, they want access. Press always wants access. So Warren Beatty, not well known for giving a ton of interviews. I think he promised a lot. Like, I'm going to do a ton of press for this. He wasn't doing it. So then they start getting pissed. Like, we want access.
Right.
And then, well, hey, red flag goes up, and once blood in the water, you're fucked. You're screwed.
I read he starts putting out, like, edited press junket type things, like, very clearly cut to like, make the movie look better.
Oh, man.
But speaking of the press and kind of everyone's relationship with this movie, I found this on Wikipedia, but it's worth repeating. Gary Larson's The Far Side comic strip. He had captioned one of his drawings, Hell's Video Store, and the entire store was copies of Ishtar. And later he said this: "When I drew the cartoon, I had not actually seen Ishtar. Years later, I saw it on an airplane, and I was stunned at what was happening. I was actually being entertained. Sure, maybe it's not the greatest film ever made, but my cartoon was way off the mark." So
it's an entertaining. I was entertained.
Collectively, I think that's what a lot of people. I think this movie. I think maybe people even think they have seen it because it's just in the public as being a bomb.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people have actually seen it.
No.
One, it's hard to get. I talk about another like physical media hunt. I found it. The director's cut, by the way, which I looked it up. It's 2 minutes shorter. So there will probably be some discrepancies there. I don't know what they are, but
she cut out more of Isabel Adjani. Apparently those two didn't get along because Beatty was dating her at the time. So Elaine May had some weird jealousy there.
She has nothing to do in the movie either.
She's like, not even.
You kind of expect she's going to be like the Dorothy Lamour type with these two.
She gets nothing to do in the movie. They're trying to do this thing where like the two of them think she's a boy at first. And I'm like,
there's no way you would think that.
No.
Even like
there's some pretty boys out there. I'm like, it's Isabel Adjani.
It's not going to happen.
No.
But
maybe in the dark when Beatty first, because she sneaks into the hotel room at night,
right?
To get, and the plot's idiotic.
I texted you last night watching this. And I'm like, I was like, because I did Gigli and then this, and I was just like, it was hard. It was a hard day because this movie. I rewatched it again today. I got it a little bit more. It's convoluted. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the whole thing with the map and. I don't know. Do you want to start? Well, we'll start at the top.
Well, I want to say, Trevor on Patreon says, the best parts of the movie are when they are in New York. Once they get to Morocco, the movie starts to drag. I like the movie. It's fun, which is more you can say for 90% of movies released today. I agree. I think the best part of the movie is the New York stuff. I think...
Well, you know what Dustin said? Dustin Hoffman? He was like, when they were first in talks to get this going, he's just like, why don't we just keep the movie in New York and just make it?
He didn't want to go to the
that might
Middle
be
East.
it. But he's like, why not just keep it about the two shitty songwriters? Why do we even need to go to the desert? And Beatty and May were like, no, we got to do this. So he was just like, all right, like, what? It's your thing.
Transmission Rory says, Ishtar is one of those films where the production history makes for a fascinating story compared to the actual film. How they were worried the Palestinian freedom fighters would kidnap Dustin Hoffman, and why May decided to film in the Moroccan deserts and would take 10 days to flatten the dunes for the shoot, the constant feuds on set, David Putnam sabotaging the release despite Beatty. I mean, it's just incredibly fascinating stuff.
I really recommend that Biskind article.
Yeah, it's.
I think it's Madness
he's
in Morocco or something.
He writes a lot of great film journalism. And lastly, I'll go to Lux Anatis, who this is kind of, if you're interested in checking out Elaine May's other work, he says, glad to hear you're doing May's other directorial work. I was able to find all of them except Ishtar streaming for free. For anyone who's interested, A New Leaf is on Pluto, The Heartbreak Kid is streaming free on YouTube right now, and Mikey and Nicky is on Max. So if you guys are looking for check this stuff out, it's readily available for the most part, which is great. Other than Ishtar, it sounds like you can't kind of find, but do you want to try to break down this mess of a plot?
Well, it starts with the two of them in New York. I actually liked how it did the flashback. And
I did too.
So it's the two of them, and it's like kind of like a little montage of them writing their shitty songs, and they're bad. Like they're just dumb, awful songs, but they're funny. By
the way,
as we said, Paul Williams wrote them.
Their name, Dustin Hoffman is Chuck Clark, and Warren Beatty is Lyle Rogers. I think that's Rogers and Hammerstein, Lewis and Clark. I think it's a way to merge the songwriting and the exploration nature. Maybe.
Okay, man.
Maybe
hey, I'd like that subtext. I can run with that. But yeah, they're kind of like, it shows them like, doing the, like, working out songs and just kind of like, with each other.
And by the way, a big thing that Elaine wants to do with them is she wants them to reverse their standard film roles.
Which I thought was a masterstroke.
A lot of people have a problem with this.
I don't understand
it. Works.
It makes so much sense to me.
Not attractive men don't automatically mean they're like well off, like they don't have anxieties or neuroses. It doesn't guarantee
that. And not only
that.
To me, it's the little scrappy guy and the big oaf.
But it's like, it's all about your confidence and how you come off. And there's that scene where the two of them are trying to pick up women at a bar. So we're jumping ahead a little bit. That's a great scene. It's a great scene because it's like if you just stand there and it doesn't, just because he's tall and handsome,
you just got to talk because he doesn't say a word to her.
He does well with it. It's a ludicrous concept that you would think, but basically, as we start, we see that they're struggling. They've been together for like 5 months they want to be like Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah.
But they're terrible. I mean, that's the thing that's worth saying. They're just not good. Eventually, they get the attention of this low-rent Marty Freed. He's like a talent agent played by Jack Weston. That's another thing about Elaine May. She works again with
company,
people.
yeah.
And he's perfect. It's just like this. Because you guarantee in New York, like we talk about Broadway, Danny Rose, like there's going to be those little low-rent talent management,
and it's great too. It's very quick, but you see his office, and there's like wind blowing in it. Like it looks like he's got a jacket on, like the windows busted. Like it's a shithole office.
Yeah, and he comes and sees them perform "Little Darling," which is kind of a funny scene.
That had my skin crawling, man. And their timing's off on the bongos and stuff.
Oh, little darling.
But then it kind of flashes back to before they met.
And Warren's character Lyle, he is a ice cream truck driver,
married
to
a high school sweetheart,
a woman who's very fed up with him not amounting to much. Dustin Hoffman's character Chuck, he is also in a relationship with Carol Kane, very briefly, and who's great though.
She's so cute. I'm sorry, I got such a thing for Carol Kane. It's a weird one, maybe. I don't know.
No, in Scrooged and in
she's got
always
a look.
Great. She's so fun.
What can I say?
We talked about her with the Sonnenfeld episode because she became Grandmama in the second Addams Family movie, but she's great. And so eventually, what happens is we see that he's like performing. Dustin Hoffman, Chuck, he's performing in like a restaurant, and he does this awful. Like, hey, this couple who came in here for their anniversary last year, I said if they come back, I'll
it's
sing.
It's like a 51st anniversary. Yeah. They're very old.
I told them I'd write a new song for them if they came back, and here they are. And it's this horrible song about like
dying,
being close to death and inheritance and leaving your family in their will. But Warren Beatty and his wife, they're in that restaurant, and that's how they meet. They get together.
I love this scene too, because like all of a sudden Dustin Hoffman gets a note from like a waiter, and he's like, "Oh, there's this guy. He says he really likes my songs." And then like Warren Beatty, the camera switches to him, he's waving, and he kind of claps
he's
for
the only
him.
One
like,
clapping,
it's really good.
Warren Beatty plays like the goofy, uncoordinated role well.
Excellently. Yeah. I loved his character. I thought it was great.
I did too.
That's what I really liked. That
awkward Warren Beatty is a lot of fun because you're so used to him being smooth and
he's so stiff in this.
You
it was great.
That it has nothing to do with looks. It's all about how you
carry yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the two of them end up partnering together, and 5 months goes by, and they haven't been able to get a solid gig. But here we go. They've contacted.
And their women
agent,
leave them.
And their women both leave them. You get a funny scene where. I love he calls him up on the phone. He's like, "I'm going to jump on the ledge of my apartment." He's just sitting on the windowsill.
Yeah.
He's not out. But it just gets worse and worse. His parents come. And
the rabbi shows up.
It's just, so their agent presents them two options. Either you can go to Honduras or Morocco to perform at a hotel. They need a residency where there's like an American embassy, and they need resident performers there. So they opt for Morocco. And I like that too. It's like Elaine does a great job of paying them into a corner.
Yeah.
They have no options left. They're broke. Their women have left them. What else are you going to do? One of them just faked a suicide attempt. Like they have to go. So they end up going to, I guess it's a stopping point on the way to Morocco is Ishtar.
It does really get convoluted because you're like, why are you even in Ishtar, which is not a real country, obviously.
All this is happening, and then this is where I do sometimes take issue with the way she structures her movies. Then we cut to this scene of these archaeologists finding this map. This should have been the opening of the movie.
You think so?
You should have opened the movie with this because they lead up to that. It says there will be two messengers from God. Cut to the two of them singing on stage.
See, I didn't. I totally get what you're saying, but I didn't mind it in the sense of like, you go, oh, once they say that, you're like, oh, well, I guess who we know the two messengers are.
Yeah, and that's true. So you cut them on a cramped airplane, they're singing together.
Yeah, right.
It still works.
I totally get what you're saying.
But it's like, I just felt the plot needed to be set up a little
what
bit
the
sooner.
hell is
yeah,
this?
What is this now?
Yeah.
But I guess Ishtar is all these Middle Eastern powers want this area for whatever reason. They all have different advantages they want to get Ishtar.
There's something going on.
The CIA is involved. The KGB is involved.
There's an emir that is like they want to depose him. The people of Ishtar, I guess, who's the resistance bloc is led by Isabella Johnny. Like,
yeah, her brother was the one that discovered the map, and he got murdered.
And the map is like
it's in the back of a jacket.
The map is like a prophecy that if the people find out the map is real, then that delegitimizes the emir. Is that the idea?
I think so, because it shows who truly owns Ishtar.
Yeah, so he doesn't want that map to get out.
So he doesn't want the map to get out, but yet the CIA wants the map. So the motivation of all these different groups really starts to get murky. But I will say, watching it a second time, and you're just able to concentrate on the two of them, it's a lot better.
Yeah,
when you're not trying to sit there and be like, wait, who's happening? If you can just like kind of
see, I think, and that's what I was able to do immediately. Is that was like you have to tell yourself that none of that shit matters.
Right.
It's just goofiness.
Yeah.
It's like it is supposed to be convoluted and goofy and stupid and meaningless almost.
Well, because she was inspired by what was going on in the world. That's how it seemed at that point. There seemed to just be a lot of back and forth in the Middle East. None of it was making sense, and she used that to inspire her story.
God, that's never going to end, is it? We're never going to get out of that fucking trap.
It's the same stuff just repeating itself over and over again.
The wheel of samsara, my friend.
But there's so they get to the Ishtar, and he's immediately approached Dustin Hoffman by Isabel. What's her name? Ajani.
This I thought was stupid.
This is what I was like.
She
Christ.
immediately
I was like, checked out.
Why this guy? What are you doing? Because he's an American.
She flashes her breast
because he thinks it's a boy.
He thinks it's a boy.
Yeah.
That's so nice. I don't like Dustin Hoffman, by the way, usually, but I like him in this.
Oh, you don't?
I don't like him usually.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know. He's always like, I don't know. I've never like seen him in something where I'm like,
you don't like Jews. No, good. Well, why though?
I don't know. It's
just one of those things.
Yeah, one of those guys I never like loved.
That's fair.
I think it's because like I remember like that stupid Mr. Megorium movie like being everywhere in like the mid 2000s.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I think I haven't really discovered the movie that I love with him in it yet.
You ever see Marathon Man?
I have.
Yeah.
The brutal movie.
Yeah.
But I don't love. I don't know. It just I got
dude, that's fine. I mean, you're not. Some people do not like. I have heard that before.
Really?
Yeah.
But I have no reason. I don't know. There's something.
Totally, dude. Sometimes that happens, man.
I will
Trust
say,
me. I have many of those myself.
I couldn't help but hear Orson. We talk about that great My Dinner with Orson book where he is it Lunches with my
Lunches, yeah.
He his buddy
edited by Peter Biskin.
But in those conversations his buddy is pitching to him these potential stars for his movie, and he mentions Al Pacino and Dustin Hoffman, and Orson says no ethnic dwarves. So the whole time I'm looking at the two of them on stage because Warren towers over him. Just Orson like ethnic dwarf.
Well, that was it's so funny because I mean, what's it called? Dustin Hoffman's a big star at this point. In time, like he's remembered as like this great actor. But like it was the same thing. I think it was with The Graduate. I think they won at Redford, and it was this idea of getting like a little Jewish guy was weird.
I think even when Robert Redford showed up to that, that's Mike Nichols, right?
Yes.
He was like, "Have you ever like had trouble getting laid?" And Robert Redford was like, "What are you talking about?" And him being like, "I don't think you're right for this movie." So,
yeah, you kind of have to have a little bit of that.
I will say, maybe I'm being hard on him. I do like Tootsie a lot. Tootsie is a great movie, and he's fantastic in it.
Hey, look, I can understand it, man.
But anyway, yeah, this scene makes no sense the way it's structured. She wants his passport. She convinces him that he'll be able to get a new one at the American consul.
She basically goes, "My life's in danger," and he crumbles immediately.
Yeah,
and it's just like it's too quick.
Well, because I don't know. There's no chemistry really there.
None
to suggest that he's like infatuated with her. It's just like it's just like your standard. Oh, she's pretty.
Yeah.
So that's all it needs. Like there doesn't need to be any substance here, and it doesn't really work. But I guess she gives him her clothing. She takes his. there's some luggage switch, and she takes the passport. So
she can get to Marrakesh, which is in Morocco.
Right. Rogers comes out of the bathroom wherever he was, and he's like, "Oh, I lost my passport." So they end up at the embassy.
Which is a funny scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be that easy for him to get a passport, so he finds. So he sends Rogers to go to Morocco on his own, perform. He'll get this mess cleared up.
That's the other thing.
In
So
Ishtar.
they have these shit nothing gigs, and they keep getting worried about missing them because we're going to be blackballed in the industry. Like
That's all they have.
As if the industry's watching them in Marrakesh and is wondering what's going on with the Clark and Rogers show.
And
so he does. He goes to Marrakesh,
Yeah.
and Dustin Hoffman's just in this hotel, and as he's getting settled in the room, the great Charles Grodin appears
as Jim Harrison, who's a CIA operative who initially kind of, "Hey, I'm a fellow American. We're traveling together. Let's go have a drink." And he soon sells him on being a CIA mole, which I don't understand this motivation either. But I guess they want someone in.
It's actually fairly realistic.
Ishtar.
It's just, hey, keep your ears
or in
and eyes
Morocco,
open.
yeah, keep your ears and eyes open, and we'll pay you X amount a week.
Extremely realistic.
And we'll also get you in Morocco tomorrow.
This is why I always say actors, are spies.
Yeah.
Because they're all over the world. All they have to do is listen. People will tell them things because they want to. Oh, you're a big star.
You're
Hey,
not
let me
wrong.
tell you this or that. It's not out of the. It's in the realm of possibility always.
I agree. But we get...
so he's desperate for money. He takes the fucking...
Yeah, and we also see that Rogers is having some issues performing by himself at this Chez Casablanca because he's trying to do... I guess they're becoming like a Simon & Garfunkel cover band, but the audience is shouting out ridiculous suggestions. That's amore they want. And to his surprise, Clark joins him on stage. And... yeah, I guess he's...
They do a good show,
They do a good show. People seem to like them, but... I guess at a certain point, she shows back up. What is her character name? Because I'm just going to keep...
Shira.
Shira shows up in their hotel room to get back her luggage or look for the map because she doesn't have it.
Well, after the show, Dustin Hoffman's character goes, I got to work off this high from that gig. I'm going to go drive around a while.
Yeah.
I'm going to go drive around Marrakesh for a while. Okay.
He's going to meet up with Grodin.
Right.
Funny gag too, where he walks past all these waiters in a restaurant and like they quickly metal detector his back. It's funny. But he starts to have doubts about doing it. But again, he's getting money. He's getting paid for this. But while this is happening, Shira tries to steal her luggage back. Another same scene where it's like, oh wait, she's a woman. Are these breasts? It's like
it's that he plays that.
It's funny because
it's a
he's doing
stupid
it.
Scene, but when he realizes. Because he keeps going. He's like, look, you're a little guy. He's like, because he punches her in the face. He's like, I only hit you a little hard because you're a little guy. And then they're kind of wrestling around. And he's just like, wait, are these breasts?
Yeah. And
now, to be fair, it's dark and she's covered up in this scene.
Yeah.
So I can kind of...
There's some suspension of disbelief
a little bit.
But she's like, oh, you're Clark. He's a CIA operative. Why is he? I just saw him go into a hotel with CIA. So like... They're both getting confused about whose side they're on. At the same time this is happening, Charles Grodin is telling Clark that Rogers is a left-leaning operative for the whoever's trying to get this map. Like, so they're pitted against each other. They don't know who to trust. She tells him he needs to. She tells Rogers he needs to go to this market to get a blind camel. That's like the code.
That's the code, right?
Yeah. You ask Mohammed for a blind camel. Which, by the way, was the original title of the movie, Blind Camel. And Grodin's telling him. So they're just pitted against each other. They don't know who they can trust. And then you also have the KGB is involved. You have
that's the other good gag.
The Moroccan government.
The next morning, Warren Beatty goes out. And Dustin Hoffman's kind of following him. And then, like, the beggars on the street are CIA.
The way that they put no effort into their disguise is pretty funny.
It's kind of funny. That's where I can
They're
see
all just wearing a fez.
that road to kind of thing where it's just goofy. Like, where you got white guys playing, like, Moroccan, like, you know.
There is a gag in this.
Right, it's just a fez.
I love. So they get into a big shooting match because, again, that you have...
Yeah, they're in this market.
And, they're... The CIA is trying to get after the Moroccan people, so it's like they get caught in a crossfire. A big chase scene happens.
There's like 4 factions, like, kind of shooting at each other.
I like this scene because it does kind of appeal to like the Raiders of the Lost Ark type. I love that the crowded market and like running around.
And once again, Vittorio Storaro knows how to fucking everything pops, man. It just looks great.
There's a visual gag in this movie, in this scene, that really worked for me, which is they run into a rug place, and you see when the enemies follow in there, these big giant carpets are all being rolled up.
Yeah,
so
two of them.
You would assume that, oh, they're going to be in the carpet. They're not.
Yeah.
They're dressed in garb in that room. So it's a little like, kind of going against what you would expect to happen. That really works in some of these gags. But the two of them end up in this market. They eventually he finds someone to sell. It's just another guy named Mohammed. It's not the blind. It's just an actual blind camel. It's not really the code.
You're right.
And they're stuck in the desert with this blind camel. And by the way, I could see they're taking this camel through a marketplace, and it keeps bumping into people. On the Blu-ray I'm watching, you can see the other string pulling it in that direction.
Because the camel gag was funny, I thought.
It is.
It's a loud, stupid camel. And also, can I get into some production stories here? So they send a couple guys over there, some animal wranglers, before the whole crew gets there to find this blind camel. So they go find camel dealers in Morocco. First camel they see is perfect. It's a blind camel. It's like, this is the camel. This is perfect. They had to get like 4 or 5 more just in case, backup camels. But they were also savvy guys. They've been in this business a while. So they go, well, let's not take our first thing here. Let's look around. So they look around. They're not really finding any camel that's as good. So they go back to the guy and they go, hey, we'll take that blind camel. And they go, oh, so sorry, we ate it.
Well, it had no use.
So shit like that. Meanwhile, these guys are getting paid a ton of money over there.
Right.
So there's a lot of stories like that in this movie.
She apparently was dressed like a Star Wars sand trooper.
She's allergic to sun.
She had complete hats and sunglasses, and so this scene in the desert, man, it just feels like it's a third of the movie. Is the two of them in the desert?
To the desert because the Grodin character says, "Look, there's an oasis. Travel southeast." Because now that everyone wants to kill them, they're like, we just got to get rid of these guys.
Sure.
The other faction, the Isabella Johnny faction, gives Warren Beatty's Rogers?
Yeah.
She gives Rogers the beads that are going to glow in the dark to find his way back to the city. But she's also sending them out there to die. Yeah, they are in the desert for quite a while.
There was a really funny line for me though, where they eventually Clark passes out and vultures start to come down. And he comes to, Roger shakes him awake. And he's like, what? He's like, you passed out and these vultures came. He's like, they're here on spec? I laughed. It was just a goofy throwaway.
See, a joke like that makes me think. I look at this movie, and like I said, I like this movie. I think it's funny. I enjoyed it. I was entertained. Who wants this movie? You know what I mean? It's like, to make this movie, it's so niche.
There's a ridiculous scene after this where they end up stumbling upon all these tribes in the desert who are auctioning off weaponry.
Probably my least favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah, and it's none of the tribes understand each other, but Clark pretends to be the translator. So it's just you're standing like, I gotta go, like saying gibberish. This must have been what the production was like.
Oh yeah,
no one could understand each other. It's just chaos. It's confusion. But Rogers is in with the group of these tribes, so he's like hyping them up to his. It just goes on a little too long for me.
Yeah, my least favorite scene in the movie probably. And then there's the classic story of where they're out in the desert and, leading up. Paul Silbert's the production designer for this film. Mm-hmm. And by all accounts, he despised May. I don't think he's too shy about saying that either. So the whole lead up to this movie, she's talking about the dunes. I want to shoot the dunes, blah, 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 blah. And then she gets there and she goes, you know what? I don't think people think of that when they think of a desert. I think they think of a flat desert. I want to get rid of the dunes. So the story is he got fucking 10 bulldozers from some nearby construction site and flattened a square mile of the desert.
Oh my gosh.
Some people say that didn't happen. But they're in May's camp.
Yeah.
They go, that didn't happen, blah, blah. He swears that happened.
Here's another anecdote from this Miss May book. Paul Williams would find himself working on Ishtar for a year and a half of the film's production, staying all expenses at the Waldorf Astoria. It's just like...
Guys, Paul Williams is a charmed life, I feel like, man.
Have you ever seen he's in one of the Planet of the Apes, the later sequels. And,
he looks like Dr. Zaius in real life.
He went on Carson in costume. It's just like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You're perfect 70s television. But yeah, I mean, stuff like that and just money being burned. And
to write songs, they're keeping him on retainer for a year and a half. You could do that anywhere. You can do it in the tub.
So yeah, Coca-Cola had frozen assets in the country for some reason.
Yes.
So you start to see there really is some other like nefarious things going on here and being pushed into.
The money had to be spent there. So it's like, well, go film a movie. Movie was originally budgeted $27 million. I think it ended no one really knows, by the way, Hollywood accounting, wink, wink.
Talk about it all the time,
Around double that, at around 50-something million.
Well, the interesting...
Oh, no, around 50 million.
The interesting thing is it opens at number 1, partly because of all the press. Everyone went to see this movie being like, well, how crazy can it be?
Right.
And I think everyone was just kind of like, it wasn't that bad.
It needed to...
And then it just plummets.
Because, dude, that's what I'm saying. It's almost just a light, fun, little silly movie.
I agree.
That's what, they go to the lengths for this. Like I said, it's the kind of movie I'd like, which is
I had a
niche.
feeling you would like this.
It's niche, dude. Niche. However you'd like to
niche.
say it. I'm an American.
I will say that it wrapped up, like, I was like, it's ending? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
The ending kind of comes out, I still don't really know, like a helicopter comes out of the sky.
They're trying to kill them, and that's the other thing, too. Apparently, like, that. This is where Elaine May, like, kind of broke.
Yeah.
Is that it's Elaine May. Does she know how to direct action battle sequences? No, and I think apparently Warren Beatty kind of stepped in here and was like, look, this is what we're going to do. They just do it. And they just kind of shoot shit at a helicopter. And It's
kind of interesting, though, that a lot of, like, the 70s filmmakers went this route in the 80s. They kind of went into that, like, action director.
The money was there.
Yeah.
That's why.
You saw a lot of directors who did, like, these really great little 70s movies become, like, big action directors. And I could tell it's where, she's trying to do that here, but she wasn't cut out for it. I mean,
it's very difficult to do.
She had issues directing... Walter Matthau by himself. Like, so to have, like, all these extras in the desert, and to
do a battle sequence? Like, come on.
But I guess what happens is they discover the map is sewn into this
jacket that Clark is wearing. Hawk, also, by the way. We didn't address that.
What?
They call me. He tries to say he has Hawk as a nickname. Yeah. Some gang stuff, there were some shootings.
But they use it to promote their own music, which is kind of funny.
They use it as leverage. Like, they get the CIA, which I'm sure this has happened a million times, they get like an album deal, essentially. Like, the CIA gets them.
Well, the movie, the last scene is they're performing at Che Casablanca, and you have all these different factions have shown up to support them because they're in control of the map.
Right.
Kind of.
I don't think it's the map that's doing it.
Well, because we see the agent. He's on the phone with them. It's like, well, they demand this, they demand that. They want to...
Yeah, the CIA gets the map.
Yeah.
I guess, what happens to the Emir?
I don't know. That was another thing
none of
where
that
it's
really
like
wraps
Grodin and the Emir and, like...
Grodin's great in this, by the way.
He's great in everything.
He is really good.
He's just terrific.
I told you, I was watching those long compilations of him on Letterman.
Yeah, that was great.
That bit they had where he would just be an asshole to Letterman. It's fucking hilarious.
He was such a delight, and that's why it's interesting to see him, because we're going to talk about on Patreon another movie he's in, Martin Brest directed, Midnight Run. But yeah, and unfortunately, it doesn't come together in a way that's memorable. It's a fun movie for what it is. It's not nearly as bad as everyone has said it is.
No.
But that's kind of what it has against it, because it's not like, oh, this is one of those really bad movies we have to sit through. It's just kind of like,
You would, from the reputation it has, you'd think it's the most embarrassing, boring piece of crap. It's not even close to that.
It's not. It just, parts of it don't land. But it's just like, that's the amazing thing about it, is that it's a victim of its own reputation. And it just has lingered there for a longest time. I give them credit for putting out a Blu-ray. I mean, it seems like everyone involved is embarrassed by it.
It's getting a, what's it called?
Cultural
reappraisal, yeah, a little bit. I mean, who's?
I might do it. It's not that bad video on it.
I think you should,
because I would love to talk about her movies in depth. And
I think you really should.
Yeah.
Not only that, you get to showcase the movie. Looks great.
It does look
really
great.
Have to stress
and
that.
I mean, I really do have a lot of respect for her, because she's someone that multiple times stuck to her guns, even though it pissed off everyone she was trying to work for. She did it her way. Much to, it destroyed her career in a way.
Funny, she didn't direct again. She's never directed again.
No, there's rumors that she's going to do something, but she's 92, and it's like, I don't.
It's just funny too. You look at it, man. It's like, you got her. She's pig-headed, and she's got all. But then you have these two giant stars. Apparently, they got to the edit. They had 3 different edits they were working off of. The editors were losing their fucking minds.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I really recommend, there's a bunch of really good articles, like I said, about like very in depth about like what's going on here. But this movie has its fans. I mean, your buddy Tarantino, Scorsese.
That's true. I know.
Let me see. I think my enemy here, guy who, let me see. Oh, Richard Brody, film critic for the New Yorker, who fears me. He's afraid of me. He calls Ishtar a wrongly maligned masterwork. I don't know if I'd go that far. This is
Is
the
he
man
the guy
that was.
that you've fought with on Twitter?
Yeah.
Because the Barbie thing, right?
Yeah,
There's
bit
something
one-sided, but yeah, I was giving him shit.
Did he block you?
Yeah, which is so funny. But it's a good movie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think it's especially knowing the disaster it could have been. Like I was saying about was it New Leaf?
Yeah.
Where she did get enough good shit where a good
That's
movie
the thing.
was salvaged.
There were no reshoots, I don't believe.
Well, that's the funniest thing. This is what cracks me up. So they go off to Morocco. They start shooting in Morocco for 10 weeks, I think, and it's a disaster. Everyone's done. Then they got to go to New York and shoot. And by all accounts, everyone was. That's when she was like, "All right, let's go," and everyone was like, "Let's just get this fucking thing done." Like no one gave a shit at that point.
Little darling. That's what they're filming. They're trying to get it together. Yeah, I want to give again special shout out to this Elaine May bio that came out very recently. Miss May Does Not Exist by Carrie Corrigan, and also there's a book called Fiasco: A History of Hollywood's Iconic Flops by James Robert Parrish. It deals with Popeye. It goes through a lot of these really big movies that had insane productions where the story behind the scenes is way more interesting than the movie itself, and I think that's unfortunately the case with Ishtar.
Yeah.
It's just the behind the scenes stuff is way more fascinating.
And I'll repeat myself. Check out Peter Biskin's article. I think it's Madness in Morocco. You can find it on Vanity Fair's website.
Yeah.
You can just Google it. It gets into in depth and all this stuff and gets everyone's point of views and bickerings and poor Isabella Gianni.
I know. She's
really,
the one that really got caught in
She got screwed in this, man.
Well, we're going to keep these mics rolling, but you should decide what we do next. I know you have some thoughts, so lay it on me. Yeah, what do you want to do next?
I think we should do Abel Ferrara's film King of New York, starring Christopher Walken. And then on Patreon, we can, since Abel Ferrara did Bad Lieutenant, on Patreon, we can do Werner Herzog's Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans.
In Ryan's revenge on me for making him watch
These
Elaine.
are good movies.
I know, but it's like,
King of New York's hilarious.
Abel Ferrara. I don't know. I think I have seen these movies too.
I'll watch some of Abel's movies. I'm not going to watch all of them.
Yeah.
There's some I'm just not interested in.
But
there's a great. I'll look it up for next episode. But there's a movie called The Funeral that Vincent Gallo actually starred in for Abel Ferrara. And that's
a match made in heaven for you.
He just said, he was like, Abel, fuck him. He's like, he's sitting in his trailer all day smoking crack. So yeah,
amazing.
Definitely.
I do know Conan O'Brien referred to him as like the worst guest he ever had.
Who's that? Abel or Vincent?
Abel. Yeah,
I
so
could see that.
Some stories about him.
And I saw something recently. Apparently, the commentary track for King of New York's really funny. It's just Abel Ferrara going, "Look at that! Look at that fucking beautiful shot. That's how you do it, babe. Look at this. That's amazing." So maybe I'll listen to that as well.
That'll be fun. But we're going to keep these mics rolling to talk about a very similar instance of a great director whose career was sidelined due to a notorious bomb, Gigli. So that's going to be on Patreon at patreon.com/almostcultclassics. To those of you who support us over there, we will see you over there for that show. And to those of you who don't, maybe you'll consider supporting us.
Thanks for listening.
Telling the truth can be dangerous business. Honest and popular don't go hand in hand. If you admit that you can play the accordion, no one will hire you in a rock and roll band. But we can sing our hearts out all night. And if we're lucky, then no neighbors complain. Nobody knows where the beginning part starts out. But being human, we can live with the pain. Because life is the way we audition for God. Let us pray that we all get the job. Crying out loud gets you pointed and laughed at. Be like a baby, only babies should cry. Somebody tell me how that rumor got started. Something